I'd like to give a shout out to Stone Coat Countertops who made this video possible. Alright, day one, ground zero. This is the shop. You can see the concrete is absolute garbage, oil stains everywhere, trash, sawdust, complete disarray. So let's get this cleaned up and get ready for some epoxy. So first step is to take everything out of the shop, which is the part that I did not want to do the most. But here we go. Alright, here's us taking out everything from the shop, which is quite the task, but we just moved it to the driveway under some tarps, covered so it wouldn't get rained on just in case it does rain. Luckily my buddy came over, helped me out through this whole process, and I had a time lapse to catch it all. So this is what it looks like afterwards, after a majority of the stuff that's on the floor got cleaned up and, as you can see, put outside the shop there. So now I'm just going to go through and get the big stuff out with the blower. Alright, so this is the second step. So once we got everything cleaned out, blew off with the blower, we rented a concrete grinder slash sander slash surfacer. I'm not sure what it's called, but it's from Home Depot. It was like 60 bucks. And it is incredibly hard to control, as you can see there. So it took us a little bit to get used to, but by the end of it, we finally got the thing under control. And all this thing is doing is scuffing up the surface so that the epoxy will bond better. Alright, here's a little time lapse of me trying to use every single bit of my muscle and wrangle this thing in. As you can see, it's definitely giving me a run for my money here. And of course, everything looks cool in slow motion. So this is just to kind of show you guys how much dust this actually kicks up. I highly recommend wearing a respirator during this process. So this is us just finishing up, going back over it once more to kind of give an even surface to it. A slow-mo video just to show you there's an incredible amount of dust that gets blown up during this. So because of this, we have to sweep everything out and make sure the surface is completely clean and free of dust before we start the whole epoxy process. So this is what we have after we swept everything multiple times, used the vacuum all over the place just to get any amount of dust off so we could prep for the epoxy. Alright, so that brings us to our third step here, where these are the materials you're going to need. You're going to need a brush to cut in, obviously. These shoes are definitely needed, as they have little spikes on them so that you're not stepping in epoxy, ruining shoes. You just slip these things over the other shoes. You're going to need buckets to mix it, and obviously I have my flakes, because once you start, you are not stopping and you're on the clock. So here's us putting on gloves and getting the paintbrush. So one of us is going to cut in, the other's going to roll, the other's going to spread. This is definitely at minimum a two-person job. So here we are mixing the first part and the second part, which is the hardener. So as soon as the hardener mixes with the part A, the first part, you're on the clock. So you have to stir for a good amount of time just to mix everything, make it solid. Here I poured it into a small bucket so I could start cutting in on the corners. And I was moving a lot slower than I thought that I needed to, honestly. And so I had to speed up while we use this little squeegee to spread it out all over the floor. And then you can see there with a microfiber roller, we're rolling it out to kind of even it out over the surface. Since this is my first time working with this product, I did not know how fast it cured or really anything about it. And so this is our first pour here, where we are learning how quick it actually sets up. And this was kind of a surprise for us, honestly, because You can tell when it starts the thermogenic process, as you will feel and see the solution start to harden. So now we're putting flakes on just before it sets up a lot, so that way the flakes become a permanent part of the actual epoxy floor. Of course, some more slow-mo just to see how many flakes there are and how even they lay down. I recommend, if you plan on doing this process, to toss the flakes as high as possible and not worry about making a mess, because it's going to get everywhere, guaranteed, but you want an as even coat as possible. We let the kids throw some of the flakes here, so it's not as even as a professional job would do it, but it's all part of the process. Now the kids have a fun memory of making an epoxy garage floor. So this is what it looks like after we got the first part down, which is the epoxy primer, and flaked the whole thing. This is just the one side. So we move on to the next side here and put the epoxy down, obviously quicker than we did the first time, so that the reaction doesn't start prematurely. So we, again, 3 people, somebody's spreading it, somebody's rolling it, and putting the epoxy flakes down. So this is the beginning of day 2 here, where it has dried overnight, and so now we're ready to scrape the epoxy flakes off. I go around with a hard bristle brush and scrape all the excess flakes off. That way I'm not blowing them off into the air. I can scrape them off first and get kind of the low-hanging fruit, so to speak. And then I come around with the blower, blow off anything else that the broom didn't get. And of course everything has to be vacuumed up after this as well. So I vacuum it and make sure there are no loose flakes, at least, lying around, so the top coat can go on smoothly. Alright, step 7. So this is where we put the top coat on, and these are some of the supplies you might need: rollers, pans, the abrasive right there you can see. This one works similar to how the primer went down. As you can see, there's a part A and part B. Part B is the hardener for the top coat. It is not as time sensitive as the primer goes with the epoxy, so you have a little more working time for this one. This is us just rolling it on, trying to get as even coverage as possible. As you can see, we're still wearing the spikes on the feet, so that way we're not leaving a horrible pattern on the floor. Alright, this is it, 24 hours later. This is essentially what the final product looks like. You can see the issues we have there in the cracks. That was me being lazy, not using their filler to fill the cracks. And so when we put the top coat on, you can see there it just bubbled up, which is not the best result, but it was me being lazy, and there's going to be a bunch of tools over it that'll cover up it anyways. So this is what you see. You can see a stark difference from what it started out was totally uneven, oil stains everywhere, the concrete was just a mess. And so now, minus the cracks and stuff of me being lazy, it looks great. It's very even except for the flakes. That was just a result of the kids and I putting it on, having fun in the meantime. It's all a process. But this dramatically improved the look and functionality of the garage. Here's some still pictures. You can see what it looks like at nighttime with the garage shut, just the lights on. Still super even. The surface feels great to walk on, and it's super easy to clean compared to the concrete, which is a huge benefit and 100% worth it, all the work put in right there. So let me know if you have any questions, put them in the comments. You can message me, however you guys do it nowadays. And until next time, thanks for watching.